Number two is you still gotta respect the wrestling. What they say in basketball, the basketball gods. You still gotta respect the wrestling gods and respect that playbook. All right, all right. I noticed that how that a lot of people tune out for our matches. Why is that? It's boring. All right, let me set up a system where people go in there. I'm their boss. Yo, train or you're fired. People got on Vince, but he was so anal about certain things because he wanted to be number one. So you gotta do all the little stuff. Like Tony Khan don't do enough of the 10% work. He doesn't do like, all right, he may cook, but he doesn't wash the dishes. He waited to the last minute. Oh man, let me wash the dishes. No, brother, man. You feel me? So to be number two, you gotta stick to your basics and evolve your basics and make the tough decision and not be everyone's friend. That's the thing. This is why TNA lasted so long because they had a lot of people over there who made the tough decisions. For real.
I like
And
that
why?
answer. I like Circle of Debate's answer as well. Brand yourself as an option until you get to the number one. Have your own identity and as you move up the ranks and eventually get to that spot when you get to that spot.
That's it. That's it.
So yeah, I hear that. I think that's a pretty good idea, Matt. You you
Uh,
know you've had a lot to say about
I
Johnson
know
and
he
Johnson as
does.
you've mentioned them. So, but with
all right.
other companies too, because New Japan was also number two at a point before AEW, and they weren't
Hell
heavy.
yeah.
They weren't heavy on the promo
Word up.
work, but they were great with presentation. They were great with all their other strengths too. So it might not just be
That's
lean
subjective.
as much into the show business talky aspect. Maybe you just double down on your principles and put it to the highest degree, gets you there too.
That's subjective. First thing first, I feel like Black only mentioned Rajon Rondo because his name sounds Haitian. That's one. Two things.
Yo, bad
I
people thought he
think
was African or Haitian. You're right.
but yeah. So but another thing, I look at TNA today and I put them in the same boat as an NWA brand. Why? Because they're in a rebrand and they're still trying to find their footing in a
Mhm.
sense. They're hard to they're hard to be located. And with WWE kind of help them getting visual, they're still not a second option or like they're more of an alternative, but they're in the same boat as the NXT. Similar to what AEW kind of is in a sense too, because AEW generally cannot compete with a Raw or a SmackDown. Their competition is NXT. So why ever view these companies as something that is a competition? They're not. They're an alternative and they're just something else to watch to get your wrestling fix. So
Yeah.
I think we as wrestling fans need to understand that your reputation is your reputation. So WWE's reputation is legendary. Therefore,
Mhm.
that being that they're legendary, there's nothing that's ever going to compete with it.
Nope.
So we need to stop talking competition and just really just come to terms with the fact of it's an alternative. There's more wrestling to watch. There's more wrestling to digest. I've never seen New Japan as direct competition or a number two. Number two would mean that it's a competition aspect, and none of these companies are competition to WWE. Again, it's just a fix. It's a pick your poison. It's pick your flavor. If you want to
Mhm.
watch, if you got a Dragon Ball Z fix, you're gonna watch New Japan because you like to read subtitles. That's just how that goes.
So let me ask you a question, Matt, because
That's
I
funny.
don't think you're necessarily wrong, but I feel like there's another side of the conversation to be had there. Yeah, obviously, a lot of these promotions realistically cannot compete with WWE. WWE is a juggernaut. WWE is competing with the main sports leagues in terms of attention now, right?
Yes.
So my thing is this: for a while, the company's product was just awful, almost across the board. Like there
Which
was a
one?
point in time, like you watch in 2017 to 2020, basically, and you're just sitting there, like outside of a few highlight things, you didn't watch week to week. You didn't really,
Hell
and you could even go beyond that. You talk about competition or lack thereof, right? I think about, since we're using basketball analogies, I think about 2K and Live.
Okay.
no.
I fucked with Live, by the way.
Most people did, and that's part of my point. There was a point in time where 2K was in the discussion, but it wasn't much of a discussion, right?
Yeah.
But 2K was better back in the day though. Like, cause I was a
No, it
2K
wasn't.
head.
Not in
You were a
I was a
2K
Dreamcast.
two K
head.
head.
Not during
I was a
Dreamcast.
2K
Okay.
head.
Okay, that's cool. Most people were live people,
They were,
like
yeah.
especially during that period of like live 03, 04, 05, 06,
Mm-hmm.
07, 08. Like there was a
Mhm.
stretch. Just like there was
Mhm.
a stretch of really
Facts.
great WrestleMania, there was a stretch of crazy lives that you got to a point where you couldn't conceive the idea that 2K was going to take over the competition and beat them. It wasn't until Live dropped the ball with Elite that 2K ended up dropping the greatest 2K of all time at that point with 11. That's when the game shifted. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because both of them were established. Both of them had longevity. Live had a longer running time because they were running since the late 90s. But when it comes down to the quality of your product, eventually people do catch on, right? So, like, for example, during the game show era of WWE, not just NXT, like, you know, the what was that period? The special guest period?
Yes.
Like in 09, like all of that.
The GM,
the Jeremy Pivens, when Timbaland was there. Bob Barker's was dope though, but like a lot of those weren't great, and people got tired to the point where either they fizzled out of watching wrestling entirely, or the people who did continue watching wrestling jumped to other alternatives. TNA saw enough of their biggest fans during that period. You had people switch. New Japan was starting to come up on the rise, and by the time 2012 came around, they were an option. And they're not speaking English. Like there's no real cultural gravitas or something grabbing you other than hard hitting action. And that's what a lot of people wanted to get to at the end of the day, because WWE was doing a lot of talking and not a lot of delivering. How is a company in a whole other country that most people don't have access to in the States becoming the number 2? And growing and growing and growing and growing, right? Obviously, you had the people from Canada and the Americas coming over eventually, but they were already getting heat behind that. Like, they were already getting a lot of fire before that happened. So what I'm saying is, like, I get what you're saying, but you can only BS people for so long. How many people do you know nowadays play 2K because they're excited to play 2K or feel like it's out of an obligation?
You fact.
You get what I'm saying? Like, how many people?
Here's what I don't agree with.
Okay.
I don't agree with. I do something that we didn't watch.
Dang, I want to hear him.
Be boo boo bop. Yes, continue.
You're crashing out, sir.
Dang.
Well,
yeah, take your time, though. Take your
time. Take your time.
Yeah, take your time.
I do want to offer one thing before you go, though. EA just dropped that college football game recently, right?
Yes.
How many people have been on that? Chat, everybody here, how many people have wanted to, had a big desire to, or have been on that for a minute?
I don't have a P5, but I thought about getting P5. Say, yo, I low-key want a P5 just to play that. Because the graphics, the gameplay, like the physics in there. You look at Madden, you look like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. And how does that feeling compare to how you feel about Madden every year?
Yeah.
Like, if they continue to release those games, improving upon the base that they have right now, how much more, like, how long are you going to continue to tolerate Madden? In a time where people are promoting all these alternatives on every platform they can, how long does it take before the word gets out? Oh, we might have to shift. We might have to shift to something else. You get what I'm saying?
True.
That's what I'm saying.
Yo.
Eric!